Good evening, welcome to GetUp Live, our final GetUp Live broadcast of the election campaign. Throughout the campaign we've had the chance to sit down and broadcast live discussions with the Prime Minister from Kirribilli House, interviews with Greens leader Christine Milne, but the most inspiring thing I think we've been able to do is sit down and talk to GetUp members who were getting ready to volunteer on election day. And today really proved that that was true. We've had some pretty amazing emails and stories come in from GetUp members who coordinated entire electorates worth of volunteers to get out today and hand out our independent scorecards. And regardless of what you think of tonight's result, I think that the main message from today for GetUp members is that our movement is more powerful, more present, more diverse than it's ever been. There were over 6,100 volunteers on the booths today. They range from 16 years old, a young bloke called Jason volunteering in Tony Abbott's electorate, to over 93 years old, standing out in the booths for hours, and they, to a T, were dedicated, they were hopeful, and they were very convincing in handing out scorecards that voters found very helpful. Whatever the result is tonight, I think that bodes well for a movement that is larger than ever, that is better funded than ever, that is more powerful than ever, and whoever forms government tonight will be able to hold them accountable. So tonight I wanted to share some of the really lovely stories that have come in about today, some really heartening stories that could hold you through the night, which, depending on your political preferences, could hold bad news or good. And to check in, of course, on our three-pronged strategy for this election and how we've gone. Let me start with some numbers. There were 6,100 GetUp members in orange t-shirts volunteering today. They handed out 2.4 million scorecards. Now, there were 10 million voters at the polls today. That means that a quarter of all voters today had a direct contact with a GetUp member, got a GetUp scorecard in their hands as they were walking into the booths. In addition to that, we know that over 600,000 people used our new OzVote app. And that, of course, helped people find their local polling booth and access the scorecard showing where the parties stack up on the issues that GetUp members prioritised. I was at the booth this afternoon in my hometown of Erskineville in Sydney when somebody I went to a get-together with earlier in the year was handing out scorecards, and he was asked by a voter walking past who had no idea what GetUp was about, what is this scorecard and how did you come up with these issues? And he was able to say, well, GetUp is an independent movement of over 600,000 people like me, and I came up with these issues. I went to a get-together at the pub just down the road with 12 other people from the electorate, and we decided what we thought was important. Here's where the parties stand on that. And that was going on all across the country today. We had volunteers from 16 to 93, and together we reached over 3 million voters. So 30% of people who cast a vote today had a direct experience with GetUp. Now, whatever happens in the polls tonight, that proves that our movement is incredibly powerful in the next term of Parliament. I think it's a good time to return to the election strategy that we started out with as a movement at the beginning of this campaign. It had three prongs. The first was to protect our Senate from one-party control so that whoever formed government, they didn't have a rubber stamp to approve their agenda. The second was to make sure that as many voters as possible were enrolled to vote, that as many people could participate as possible. And on that front, we've had an incredible success. And the third was to make sure that the issues GetUp members prioritised were on the agenda for the whole country. Let's start with the Senate. Now, it's very early in the count tonight, and we don't have a strong sense of who will gain control of the balance of power, but it does look as though if Tony Abbott forms government with the coalition, they will not have a rubber stamp Senate for their agenda, as was widely feared at the beginning of the year. It's really on a knife's edge tonight as to whether the Greens maintain a balance of power, whether they share that with Independent Senator Nick Xenophon, whether Bob Katter in Queensland, or even such unlikely suspects as Pauline Hanson and One Nation in New South Wales grab the balance of power. Here's what GetUp members did to affect this situation. We ran over $700,000 worth of ads in key Senate battleground states in Western Australia, South Australia, ACT and Queensland. Over $700,000 was raised by GetUp members to run ads that brought attention to the role of the Senate and why it's important not to have a rubber stamp for one party's agenda. We brought attention to issues like refugees and what would happen if there was no oversight of offshore processing from the Senate. And together, in 2 of those states, we spent more money than all the political parties did individually. So if there is a Senate as a result of today's election that holds the next Prime Minister accountable, it will in no small part, be thanks to the efforts of GetUp members whose ads were dominant on the airwaves throughout the last 5 weeks, and who on the polling booths outnumbered a number of the parties at key polling booths in South Australia, WA and other states. So we wait with bated breath to see who will inherit the balance of power this election. It could make all the difference to whether the next government is able to repeal action that we've taken on climate change, is able to continue to the race to the bottom on refugees, and how much oversight they'll have of their agenda. But regardless of that result, I think GetUp members can be very proud of an incredible effort to put the Senate on the agenda. It was, after all, the reason that GetUp was formed back in 2005, when John Howard, after 9 years of government, finally grasped control of the Senate as one party. GetUp started up with this one idea, that if the Senate won't hold you accountable, if other politicians in the Senate are not able to hold you accountable, then we will. Then we will stand up and stop you from implementing an agenda without any scrutiny. Last time, when John Howard got control of the Senate, we saw the sale of Telstra, the Northern Territory intervention, all passed through a Senate with less than a day's debate. And whatever happens tonight, our movement as GetUp plays a key role in holding the next government accountable. The second tier of our strategy this election has been enrolment, and this has been my personal passion since I started at GetUp in 2007. The first campaign that I got involved with was to do with enrolment, because it was at that time that the Coalition passed a bill that they call the Electoral Integrity Act. It made it incredibly difficult for young people in particular to enrol to vote. Over 150,000 people were removed from the rolls because of that legislation. They were unable to cast votes. And to me, that is the core of our democracy. GetUp started with a simple petition to overturn those rules. We campaigned for 4 years, putting ads on air, meeting our politicians, and in the end, it took going to the highest court in the land, the High Court of Australia, with a member-funded case to overturn those laws and allow Australians 7 days to enrol to vote. We also fought a federal court case to defend something that we pioneered, online enrolment. The first person in Australia to enrol online was enrolling through GetUp's online enrolment site. Now, in this election, there are over 162,000 people who would not have been able to vote today if it weren't for you, if it weren't for GetUp members who had run that campaign. That's because 162,000 people enrolled in that 7-day period that they wouldn't have if it weren't for GetUp members taking this High Court case on 3 years ago. What's more, we've gone from one person, just one, at the last election enrolling to vote online, to 85% of all people who enrolling online, and that is 100% because of GetUp members. Because of that, enrolment was up this election 30% on the previous electoral cycle. So the number of people who were able to vote today, who were able to cast a ballot and participate in our democracy, was hundreds of thousands more than it would have been if it weren't for GetUp members. And regardless of the political result, to me that is the greatest victory of all. Now, the third tier of our strategy was putting the issues that GetUp members prioritise on the agenda. And if you just run through the numbers today, over 3 million Australians had an interaction with GetUp members on the booths, used our scorecard app, and saw where GetUp members prioritise, the issues that GetUp members prioritise and where the parties stack up. 30% of voters had a direct contact with us and the issues that you voted for as part of our get-togethers and our vision survey. Now, however they chose to vote in the end, the issues that we put on the agenda were there today in front of voters as they cast their ballots and as they made up their minds. So I think it's been an incredibly successful election campaign. And regardless of who forms government tonight, our movement will be more important than ever. Now, some people are already comparing tonight's result to 1996 when when John Howard grasped power, there's one key difference in that result, and that is that everybody who volunteered today, who joined over 6,100 volunteers on the booths, and over 15,000 people who've contributed financial contributions in the last week alone, is part of a movement of Australians who care about the same things, who share our values, even if we don't share a postcode. And together, we have something that didn't exist in 1996 when John Howard came in at all. We have a movement of over 600,000 Australians, 600,000 who are active and who think that politics is too important to be left to politicians. Now, for a lot of Australians, tonight will be the end of their engagement with our democracy. It will be the end of their engagement with politics for another 3 years until they come back to the same school and cast another ballot. But GetUp members are different. They're different because they believe that this is just the start. Electing a government, electing a parliament is just the start of our engagement with politics, and it's up to us to every day, every week, step up and campaign for what we believe in. Because we know from experience that some politicians will soar as high as we ask them to, but some will sink as low as we allow. And that's why, together, we have such an important role over the next 100 days and over the next 3 years to hold whoever forms government tonight accountable. And after today, and after seeing the incredible stories and photographs that have come through of people volunteering, I couldn't be more excited to do that with you. Thank you for everything you've done this election. We've raised more money than all the political parties online. We've spent more money on political ads than some of the political parties in states. And on booths across the country, there were more GetUp members than there were political party volunteers at a number of booths. Our movement is more powerful than ever, and I couldn't be more excited about taking on the next few months with you. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy your election night, regardless of the result. And please jump online, shoot us some emails, share your insights and your photos and your stories about today, and we'll try to keep you posted throughout the evening with some insider analysis of some of the key Senate races and some really beautiful stories from GetUp members who've been out on the booths today.